Okay, so this is probably going to be a long one. So, in this episode we are going to create user authentication for our application and our Strapi backend, of course. So how is this going to work? So we are going to have this paid articles page, like you can see right here. When you click on it, because we are not logged in and we cannot see those paid articles, we need to log in. So you just log in, you enter your password and you click login. Now you can see those paid articles. So in this episode we are going to learn how to create that login form, how to create user authentication on your Strapi side, and how to handle all of that in your Next.js application. So let's get started. So before we begin, let me just show you quickly our Strapi setup. So I created this paid articles content type, and I have two paid articles in it. They consist only of title and body. Next thing I did, I added paid articles into our navigations. So if you go to the page right now, you see this paid articles link. But if I click on it, I of course get 404 because we still haven't created that page. Next thing you need to do, you need to go to roles and permissions, actually to users first of all, and I created one test user. So you just do add new user. What is important here is to set that user role to be authenticated. Of course, you can create your own roles, read the Strapi documentation for that, but I'm going to use this pre-created role, which is called authenticated. Next thing you need to do, you need to go to roles and permissions, and of course, whenever you create a new content type, it won't be publicly available right away, and we don't want that in this case. So you ignore this public, but you click on authenticated, and for authenticated users we set count find and find one for paid articles. And that's about it. So you handled your Strapi authentication this way by just clicking a few buttons in the Strapi admin. So our Strapi is already set up. Next thing I want to do, I want to show you how this authentication works from a bird's point of view. First of all, we need to create paid articles page. So we are going to create it in pages, and I'm going to call it paid articles.js, of course. Next thing, I'm just going to bootstrap this to just be a normal page. Okay, so this is our page. As you can see, it's just a normal page. It's a function paid articles. We are exporting it right here. We are using get server-side props, which has nothing in it as of now. Of course, we need to get public runtime config so that we can access our API, and that's about it. And it says paid articles right here. So when I save this, go to our browser. Now if I click on paid articles, you get to this page. Great. So first thing I want to show you how we can't at the moment access our paid articles. And you of course are going to do it just like we did it a million times before in this series. So we are just going to fetch paid articles API endpoint. We are going to set them to be articles, and then we want to pass them as props to our component. So I'm just going to set this to be articles equals articles. Of course, to access them here, you just do this, and let's see if we can log them out. Okay, so save this right now, go to our browser, refresh it, and if we take a look at our console, as you can see, we are getting the object, but that object says error forbidden, message forbidden, and status code 403. This is because this is a protected route on our API, so we can't access it this way. So there are things that we need to do to be able to do that. So first of all, what we need to do, we actually need to log in. We're just going to hard code logging into our application for now, and then we are going to create that login form and everything else. So first of all, I'm just going to add the login info. So the login info must consist of an identifier and a password, and the password is test1234. Okay, so first of all, we need to log into our application. And how do we do that? Well, we are going to do const we are of course going to access this route right here. So it says auth local. So we are logging in with fetch, but here we need to set up some options for that login. So first of all, we need to log in with the post method. So we do method. Next thing, we need to send some headers. And those headers are going to be accept, application JSON, and content type JSON. After that, we need to send our login info that we defined right here. Okay, so we are sending all of this. And after that, I'm just going to set the login response to be equal to await login JSON. Okay, so we set this up. Now I just want to show it in my component. So I'm going to pass it here so that we can see it in the console. And I'm going to send this login response as props to our component. So we are just going to set this to be login response. And also I wanna add it here. So what is happening right here is because we are doing this in get server side props. Once we refresh the page is going to try to log in into our Strapi backend. So if I save this, go here and refresh this page again. Now we are getting this status code forbidden, but here we are getting undefined for some reason. Let me just check why that is. I shouldn't call this login response, but auth data. Okay, save it, try it again, refresh it. And now, as you can see, we are getting this status code forbidden still, but one thing, very important thing that we are getting is this right here. So we are getting JWT. This is JSON Web Token with which we can access our authenticated routes or our protected routes. So as you can see, we are getting from our Strapi backend this token, which is going to be very important to us. And also we are getting a user, which is test user and so on. So this right here is super important for us to be able to get those posts, because as you can see, we are logged in, but we are still not getting those posts, because to get them, we need to send this JWT token to our API endpoint for it to give us those posts or those articles. So how do we get those articles? Well, right here where we are fetching those articles, we need to send some additional options, and those options are also going to be headers. And as you can see, we are sending headers with which is called authorization, and then you need to send this bearer, and then you send login response.jwt, and that should actually be it. So if I save this, go to our browser, refresh it, and now as you can see, we are getting paid article number 1, paid article number 2. Great. So this is the way you would get those articles. Of course, some of you, when I show you this, you already know what to do. But for those of you who don't know what to do, now we are going to create that login page. We are going to set up logic for the users to not be able to access our paid articles route until they are logged in. So behind the scenes, I cleaned up this paid articles JS. As you can see, now it's just a normal page so that we can have a clean slate going further. So if we go to that page and click on paid articles, you just get paid articles. Next, I also created this login.js, which is also just a normal page. I'm importing style because we are going to need some styles to style our form. We are of course importing public runtime config, and that's about it. And if you go to that page, you go to login, it will just say you need to log in to access this page. And that's about it. So now we have those two pages. Next thing we need to do, we need to add some logic that will say, so if you have that JWT, so that token, then you can access paid articles page. Otherwise, just go to the login page. First of all, we are just going to hard code it to show you how it works. Next, when we do the login, we are going to get that key, and then we are going to implement that. So first of all, what you need to do is you need to import router right here. So we are importing router from Next router. Next thing, I'm going to create a function right here, which I just stole from the internet. I think I didn't change it probably at all. So this function is just going to redirect our user to the desired location. And here I'm going to set const to be JWT, and I'm going to set it just to be false for now. So now this is going to be hard coded, but later we are going to get that key and do something with it. And after that, I'm just going to add a conditional, which is going to say, if you have JWT, then go to the paid articles, otherwise go to the login page. We are saying this, if there is no JWT, and the path name that you are trying to access, so we are getting that from this context right here, and the path name is you want to access is paid articles, then please redirect the user to the login page. So if this is false, the user is going to go to the login page. So let's see if this works. So if I go right here and go to paid articles, as you can see, we go to the login page actually. So let me show you again. If I go here to next movies, click paid articles, instead of going to paid articles page, now we are going to this page. So this is our logic for setting up that login so that the user cannot access paid articles. And also if I do paid articles, I am again just going to go to the login page. Great. So if we want to go to the paid articles page, we can now at least just set this to be true. Save it, check it out in the browser. Now if I click on the paid articles, I'm going to the paid articles. Great. Okay, so next let's set up our login page. Okay, so first of all, let's add a form to this page that is going to consist of your username or your email actually, and your password. Okay, so as you can see, we got input field of type email, type password, and we have a button for logging in. Next thing, I just want to make this form look just a little bit prettier. So we are just going to add some styles in our login styled. So right here, and save this, check out the page. So if we go to login, you can see, so this is going to be our username or actually our email, and this is going to be our password. Of course, none of this works right now because we didn't apply or implement any logic to this, so of course it can't work. Next thing we want to do is we want to import useState from React, because we want to use useState hook to control the state for our component. So you just do it like this, and next we want to set that state up. Of course, check out the previous episode if you don't know what's going on here. So we are using useState hook to set up username and password, and also functions for setting those username and passwords up. So we are going to have a set username and set password functions. Now we need to implement those on our input fields. So for email, we are going to say on change, we are getting the event of this field, and we are setting set username to be e.target.value, and the value is going to be username. We do pretty much the same thing for password. So on change, we want to set the password. We are going to take the value of this field, and the value is going to be password. And after that, we want to on click handle the login. So when somebody clicks here, we want to handle that login. For now, I'm just going to create a function that is going to be called handle login. So I just create this function handle login, and when I click the button, we are just going to get login handled in our console. So if I go right here, refresh it, just add anything right here, click login, login handled. Okay, great. Now what we need to do is we actually need to add logic to handle login so that it will go to our server, authenticate us, and somehow save JWT into a cookie so that we can use it throughout the site. Okay, so first of all, we need to set this up to be async function, because we are going to use fetch inside of it, and we need this function to be async function to be able to use await. Next thing we want to do is we want to set up the login info, just like we did at the beginning of the video. And the login info in this case, of course, is not going to be hard coded, but we are getting the username and the password that the user enters inside of our form. After that, we also do pretty much the same thing that we did before. We want to access our endpoint and get the JWT token from it when logging in. We're just logging in, the method is post, headers, we get those headers, and of course we send login info to the server, and then we want to get the login response. Okay, and now just to see if this works, we can log out login response to see if we get that JWT token. Okay, save this. Go to the browser, refresh it. And now if I do something like this, as you will see, you get the status code 400. The message is going to be identifier or password is invalid. So this is the way that you can implement error handling inside your application. We will not be doing that in this episode because this episode is going to be very long anyway. You can do that for your homework or when you are implementing this on production, because as you will see, this solution will not be 100% production ready. One thing that you would have to handle yourself is, of course, this error handling. Maybe even front-end validation and so on. Okay, so we aren't getting this. We don't like that. So let's refresh the page and try to log in with our actual data. So for me, that is test@test.com and the password is test1234. And now if I click login, as you will see, I'm getting the JWT token and the user. Great. Now that we have that set up, as I said before, we need to save that JWT token inside of a cookie. We unfortunately cannot do that in internal storage because this is an SSR application and you can't access local storage from your server. And we will need that because we want to display our articles with using get server-side props, and as you know, get server-side props works only on the server. So we will need to save that cookie, and we are going to use a plugin for Next.js called nookies, which is going to handle all of that for us, and we will be able to access the cookies on our server, which we are going to be needing, of course. As I said, we are going to be using nookies plugin. This is the page. This is the documentation, which of course I urge you to read. So as you can see, you can get the cookies from SSR or client, or you can get the cookies only on client, and you can set the cookies and you can destroy the cookies and everything like that. Please read that documentation. Now we are just going to first of all install them on our application. So you just do npm install nookies. So once this is done, we can go to our code editor, and now we of course want to import nookies, but we are not going to import all of it. We are just going to import set cookie from nookies. So we want to set the cookie to be that JWT token that we got, and we are going to be doing it right here. So you set the cookie very easily. You go set cookies. You do null because this is going to be running on the client, so in the browser. You do JWT, so this is going to be the name of our cookie, and the value of the cookie is going to be login response .jwt, and that's about it. Now our cookie should be saved once we log into the application, and after that we want to do something like this. So we are just going to do router push paid articles. So once all of this passes, we want to push the user to the paid articles page. Of course, if you have multiple pages, you're going to have to handle this differently. I'm going to hard code this for our example. So okay, let's save this. And of course this is not going to work right away because we didn't import router from Next. Actually, from next router. Okay, so now it's imported so that we don't get any errors. Save this. Let's just test this out again. Go to our login page, refresh it. Okay, click login. Nothing happens right now. We did go to the paid articles because actually we shouldn't have gone to the paid articles just yet, but we did go because in our app.js this is set to true. If it was set to false, we wouldn't be able to go to them, but we are going to handle that in just a second. But before that, I just want to show you. So if we go to application, you go to cookies and you filter JWT, and as you can see, we have our cookie set up. This is our cookie value. Great. So we have that set up. Next thing we need to do, we need to handle this like I just said. So instead of this being true or false, we need to get that cookie. And if that cookie is okay, then we want to redirect the user to paid articles page. And if the cookie is not set up, of course, you're going to go to the login page. Okay, so before we start setting all of this up, I want to remove this cookie because now we have it. So our paid articles route is always going to work. So I'm just going to remove this. So now we don't have that cookie set up. Let's go to our app.js file. So in here, first of all, I want to import parse cookies from nookies because now we don't want to set the cookie, but we want to read the cookie. Now we go down here, and instead of JWT being just true, we are going to actually parse the cookies from the context. So this is the beautiful thing about nookies. You can access cookies from client side, from server side, however you like. You just use this context right here. So we want to parse the cookies, and we're going to set it up to be parse cookies. We want to parse the context because they are going to be in our context, and then we just do .jwt, and that's about it, right? So if I save this right now, go to my page and try to go to paid articles, we are just going to end up on a login page because remember, we still don't have this cookie set up. Okay, so now if I go test and click login, I will go to the paid articles. Of course, if I remove the cookie, try to go to the paid articles, I'm going to go to the login page again. Great. Let's log in one more time. And now we are on paid articles page. Of course, now we need to display those cookies. And since you always need that JWT, you can't just display them however you like. You will need to use this token to access your articles. Since of course we are going to be needing the cookies, I will just do parse nookies from nookies because of course we want to parse the cookies. After that, we are going to set this get server side props to have that JWT. We are going to parse the cookies through context, and you just do ctx right here so that we have our context. And now, just like we did at the beginning of the video, we need to get our articles, and of course we are getting them by using fetch. And don't forget, we need to send the header with authorization that we are getting from our Strapi, and we are sending this JWT token. Next thing we need to do, we just need to get all the articles and send them as props to our component. So you do articles await res.json and you want to send them right here. Okay. Of course, to be able to access them, we need to destructure this to be articles. Okay, and now all it needs to be done, we just need to display those articles, and we are just going to map through them. So we do articles map, we just add a div with the class name of article. The key is going to be the article ID, and then we just do article.title, article.body, and that's about it. Save this. If we now go to our page, we can't read the map of undefined. Okay, let's just try to refresh it. Okay, we just needed to refresh it because this is happening on the server side, so we need to refresh this page, and as you can see, we are getting those articles. As I said, I'm not going to implement error handling and so on in this video, and also I'm not going to implement logging out. But for you to log out of your Strapi backend, all you need to do is you need to, of course, route the user to, for example, your home page, and then you need to destroy this cookie and just check the documentation. As you can see, nookies.destroy, and you destroy that cookie name. And that's how you log out the user. However, we are not going to be doing that. You can do that for yourselves. Now, if I just remove this, let's just test it once again. Go to the front page. We want to go to the paid articles, but we can't. So we get to the login page. We do test, click login, and we are on our paid articles page. So this is how you do authentication with Next.js and Strapi. Just remember, this is not 100% production ready. You need to handle logout, you need to handle errors, you need to handle form validation, invalidated tokens, and so on. But this is a good starting point to create the login or user areas for your Next.js and Strapi websites. Okay, so this has been it for this video. Everything we did here will be available for you on GitHub. The link will be in the description below. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.